Hey everyone, and welcome back to a reboot video. So we're going to be reviewing the new update and Sunshine Springs in this video. This is an initial impressions because I've only been playing for a few hours, but I do have a lot I want to talk about and practically compliment. There's a lot of good points as well as a couple downsides. So again though, I do want to just say this is an initial impressions. Please don't take everything too strongly. My thoughts may change. I probably won't make a full scale review on the update or district, but if something else is jumping out to me that I have to talk about, I might. So yeah. Anyway, let's start off with the combat. So the combat, I have to say, is really enhanced. I think it is a lot better, a lot more fluid, and everything just feels so much nicer. So enemies definitely feel less spongy and kind of more thought out now. All your attacks do definitely seem to be doing damage, and I do think that there is a lot more tactical ways to play this game now. I feel like you have to be good at the game now to do your best, instead of just kind of memeing around and not really caring. This game has definitely got a bit of a skill gap, I would say, at this point. Nothing huge, don't get me wrong, but there's something. I also think, as I'm just going to show here, hip firing is now so much more easy to do and possible. Like, it actually feels kind of satisfying. You still have to kind of get used to it, especially playing the reboot. And I don't think it's as easy as the other games. But if you aren't a fan of the whole, like, jumping onto enemies and locking on style, you could definitely play the game kind of like a traditional Saints Row. A lot easier now, I will say. Again, I don't think it's perfect, but it's better. Enemies definitely have better AI now, and I do think combat is just drastically improved across the board. I don't think it's exactly the biggest overhaul in the world, but I do genuinely think the enhancements made are really nice and really useful. As well as that, there's also this weird depth of field effect added, like they said, and I think it actually makes the combat kind of feel a lot nicer. Feels like you're really focusing on your enemies, and I don't know. The combat, to me, it was the biggest issue with this game, and now it's not. So, if you want a statement to go by about the combat, it was at one point probably the biggest issue with Saints Row, and now it is not. Or at least it was one of the biggest issues. So let me talk about what I initially found out when I first loaded up the game, and that is basically that the game is now running at a crazy higher frame rate. I have to say that this game's performing so much better frame rate wise, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm on last gen, okay? I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this feels more like 60 than 30. Now, I don't know if that is even possible on last gen, but either way, it feels buttery smooth. It's hard to really explain because a lot of my gameplay isn't recorded at 60 FPS due to my capture settings. I do upload at 60 FPS, but it's not usually displayed at 60 FPS. But it just feels a lot smoother, I'm not having as many frame dips, and it's just definitely more optimized. So once again, a drastic improvement across the board when it comes to optimization and how the game feels. Genuinely, another really nice enhancement. Now, let's talk about one of the things I'm really excited to talk about, and that is the brand new camera mode. So, camera, as always, nice. Boom, we got a selfie mode. So you can move around in it, you can do a ton of stuff, it's just crazy good. But on top of that, there's like this crazy zoom out you can do too. So like, you can really get some nice shots, you can, stand still, and obviously maybe if it wasn't so much in combat here, you can get really big close-ups, it just looks really nice. Honestly, this is going to make making thumbnails so much more fun, and I wholeheartedly think that this is one of the best enhancements about this new update. It is amazing, and ouch, I can do a ton with it. So if you look at the weapon wheel real quick, they did basically follow up on something they said they were bringing. You can tell what level your gun is by looking at it. For example, this Son of Shotgun is only level 1, whereas my other weapons are level 3. Really nice enhancement, just a small thing, but it saves me having to go to the store to check, and I know what's what now. So one thing you may have already noticed is they've added hit markers when you're shooting enemies. Do you know what this means in the long run? You don't need health bars anymore. I had health bars on, and I still have vehicle health bars on, but I need to turn them off. That's just because I haven't done it yet. But I had health bars on because it was hard to tell whether you're actually doing damage to the enemies. But now that the enemies are significantly less spongy and take a lot more damage whilst distributing a lot more damage, it feels like more a traditional Saints Row game. It honestly just feels really nice, and I don't worry about if I'm doing damage. They've also fixed a lot of the issues with enemies kind of ducking at the way and being free from your attacks, and it feels really good. So yeah, combat, again, just to kind of complement it once again, is drastically improved, and I really like the new UI system that they're using for all of this stuff. Of course, I don't think it's all perfect, and that brings us on to Sunshine Springs. So overall, I think the update's relatively good, and I think Sunshine Springs is pretty cool too, but I've got a couple major complaints. So yeah, the first initial disappointment I have with Sunshine Springs, and I will get onto the good points soon, don't worry, is they basically teased a ton of new stores coming to the game, and I bet you're thinking, oh wow, new customization, new weapons, etc, etc. Well, you're half right, but you're also quite wrong. Let me just go over here real quick and show you the vast array of customization options coming with the update alone, not with the DLC. That's it. That's your lot. That's what you get. A bunch of kind of spa stuff. Now, look, I try not to be too negative, but this is a little disappointing to me. I was really hoping for some really cool and wacky customization things. This is just not great to me. I'm sorry. Kind of disappointing. And the second disappointment, I kind of already knew was coming, and I don't mean to kind of harp on this too much because it's not the biggest issue, I guess. There's still no enterable buildings in this game when it comes to this district. I mean, obviously you can go into friendly fire, and I will say that a lot of the interiors, basically you can see through the glass, definitely look a lot more viewable now, I guess. They look a lot better inside the buildings from the outside, but you can't go into them. At least without the DLC. Again, I'm talking from a pre-DLC point of view. This is update alone. Somewhat disappointing, not the biggest deal, but again, you know, it's something that I have to kind of mention for the sake of mentioning it. But that's basically all the negatives I have about Sunshine Springs. Aside from the fact that the stores were kind of disappointing and that the interiors aren't really here, the rest of it's really good. I think the district is nice and diverse and exactly what a map like this needed. And why I say that is basically because this map didn't really have a residential area. It had a couple where there were buildings, but there was never an area that definitely felt, you know, just full of buildings, and it was where people lived. This district is that. It's beautiful, it's honestly, like, really pretty, and it sort of serves a purpose. So yeah, I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with how they've designed this district. It's great. They also bring a few new activities and ventures and stuff to do, kind of like we saw in the base game, whether that be gang operations or the Atcha app. I like it, I like what I'm seeing, and overall this district is a huge bonus, so yeah. Now, look, I haven't played the DLC yet, so I'm still kind of at a position where I can't talk about too much, and I will probably touch on a lot more in that DLC review, because I want to basically gather my entire thoughts on this big May update in that review. But as for now, on this initial impressions of the update and Sunshine Springs, I'd say I'm delightfully surprised. I think there's still a couple downsides, don't get me wrong, but I'd say a lot of my major issues I had with the game are gone. The aiming, and again, I can't specify this enough, the aiming was by far one of the things that turned me off this game the most, and that problem just isn't here anymore. It's so much better, and there's so many new features I haven't even touched upon. For example, I didn't even talk about the emote wheel in this, but again, I want to save a lot of stuff basically for that larger scale review. But right now, the aiming is fixed, the map is beautiful, I'm having way better optimization, like, it just feels smooth and better. This feels like a more polished Saints Row experience. I know a lot of people are just going to go, oh man, we should have had this at launch, and yeah, you're right. But that doesn't mean I'm not grateful it's here now. The game feels so much better, and at this point I can now at least recommend the game to people who aren't in it for the story. Now, before, I was kind of a bit like, even if you're not in it for the story, it's probably not the most fun Saints Row and kind of boring. And again, I haven't played the DLC, so I can't sort of comment on the mission and DLC design, but right now, the base game is feeling a lot better. I'm having a blast of it, and honestly, I'm looking forward to what they bring in future updates. Combat feels so much nicer, and it's just a better experience. I guess we kind of already knew that that was the conclusion I was going to come to, and again, a couple downsides, don't get me wrong, but overall, yeah, I think this is stunning. I think that it's a really good update, and overall, like I say, I'm delightfully surprised. So, what I'm going to say to you guys is definitely update the game. It's a hell of an update, nearly 30 gigabytes, and enjoy it. It is a blast, and I think it makes the game a significantly better experience. And if you're someone who is perhaps holding off about playing this game, not because of the story content, but because of everything else, you weren't really sold on the gameplay and the gunplay and the map and all that stuff, a lot of it has been improved in this update and will continue to be improved going forward. So maybe just reconsider or take a second look at it. Of course, this is just one man's review, and I'm sure there's plenty of other perspectives out there, and probably people who have a much more negative experience slash perspective on this. But for me, I'm not disappointed in the slightest. I think it feels really good, and it's basically what I'd been hoping for a long time. The combat is so much nicer, the map is so much nicer, the game is so much nicer, and I'm surprised. Anyway, thank you so much for coming to me for this news, and I appreciate you all. Thank you for supporting all the videos. You guys have been killing it. You know this, but I'm really proud of our channel and how far we've come. Make sure you're subscribed. We're closing in on 5K, which is crazy. But yeah, take care, everyone, and thank you for the support. Hi you guys, I just want to tag this on the end here. So I've been kind of just getting a feel for the general consensus so far of the DLC. I'm yet to play it, of course, but I'm not hearing very good things. This isn't great, of course. I'm yet to play it still. I'm still kind of just messing around with the update. But hearing people say it was really underwhelming, really short, is super disappointing. I'm also seeing people kind of point out the thing I was saying earlier about the stores, and yeah, I agree. From what I've heard about the stores and stuff, it's not great, and the DLC apparently is really short. We all knew it was 3 missions, but again, I'm yet to play it. But I just want to say I will definitely be talking about that in my next video, so if you felt that this video was a little over positive for what you've experienced, please just be aware that this is my initial impressions, and I've barely put any time into the game. I literally have just played with the update so far, not the DLC, and I have seemed to have talked about basically the major complaints for the updates in this video, but again, I know a lot of people are really disappointed at their DLC, so just bear with me on that, okay? Anyway, sorry, thank you all.